Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. She woke me up with a fingertip on my shoulder and the smell of bacon. Coffee's ready. Eggs the way you like. Emily was standing there in my old college hoodie, hair up, smiling like a woman who liked her life. Plates were already on the table. My work shirt was folded on the chair, phone charged, keys by the door. I lay there a second thinking, good job, Mark, you picked right. If I'd known where that morning was headed, I would have paid closer attention to the details I ignored. At first, the changes were small and easy to blame on work. Emily started coming home late from the nonprofit. Meetings ran over. New program. Grant reporting. She'd drop her tote by the couch, kiss the air next to my cheek, grab a shower, and disappear into bed with a podcast. I tried to match her pace. Long day, I asked one night, tossing my boots by the mat. They stacked 2 visits back to back, she said, rubbing her neck. I'm beat. You want me to reheat dinner? I'm not hungry. Okay. She scrolled her phone. No look up, no follow-up. That was the first ping in my head. I planned a small Friday thing. Just burgers on the deck, some neighbors, nothing dramatic. Tuesday, I told her. Friday. Emily didn't raise her eyes. I might be late. Late like 8, or late like tomorrow. Depends how the day goes. Got it. Friday, she arrived at 9:30 with a half smile and a story about traffic. Our neighbor, Wes, knocked his beer against my shoulder after she wandered inside. You good? He said. I'm fine. You looked at the clock 3 times. I've got eyes. I rinsed plates. Don't read into it. He did the neighbor thing and shut up. I appreciated that. But I made my first adjustment. I stopped hosting. I didn't announce it. I just closed that window. If I was the only one showing up, I was done doing the layout. The distance bloomed a little more each week. At the gym on Saturday, she chose a treadmill 2 rows away instead of next to me. At home, she drifted to the spare room to journal. When I reached for her at night, she froze. Not tonight, she whispered. You sick? Tired. Okay. The next time I tried, she said, you're too serious lately. Then turned and went still again. Serious? I hadn't said 3 sentences. I didn't push. I gave it space. That Sunday, I set up her bike rack for a ride with her coworkers, cleaned her windshield, left a note in her bag. You're killing it. Proud of you. She sent back a heart emoji. No words. A week later, I found her on the couch, knees tucked, watching some home show like strangers flipping a house would fix our kitchen and our mood. I put down 2 bowls of pasta. Emily. We're drifting. She kept her eyes on the screen. You're being dramatic. I'm being specific. Mark, please. I'm tired. Can this not be a whole thing? It already is a thing. Nothing's wrong. That sentence is what people say when something is wrong. She got up, set the bowl down without tasting it, and headed to the bedroom. I need a shower. The door clicked. Silence. Water. More silence. I gave it another week. Then I changed my routine. No announcement. I stopped planning dinners. I stopped picking up her dry cleaning with mine. I moved my runs to 5 in the morning and my nights to the workshop behind our garage. Built shelves, replaced the vise on the bench, lined up socket wrenches by size. If she wanted distance, she could have all the air she liked. Not a punishment, just efficient alignment. She noticed. One night, she leaned in the doorway of the shop. Getting a new life? She asked. Keeping the old one in shape, I said, tightening a clamp. Why so cold? That's an echo. She crossed her arms. You're guilt-tripping me because I'm busy. I'm not that creative. I'm just adjusting. She rolled her eyes, turned, and left. But 2 days later she got warmer. She bought my favorite bread, touched my back when she walked by, asked about a client of mine by name. Did the build at the lake go okay? She asked, cutting vegetables. Went great, I said. How was your day? Productive. Nice. For 3 days she smiled more. She laughed at one of my lame jokes about the dog that barked at the mail. She took my hand in the aisle at the hardware store. That small thaw felt deliberate, like she saw the shift in me and didn't like the new cold. On the 4th day, she went silent again. A microclimate, sun, then frost. That's when the overnight friends and family visit started. On a Wednesday, she texted at 7:15. Dinner with Megan. Might crash at her place. Early volunteer shift tomorrow. I stared at the screen. We'd never played that card. I called. You're crashing where? I asked. Megan's. I told you. You told me after the decision. Mark, it's not a big deal. It's a new deal. Stop being controlling. I'm being informed. She sighed into the phone like an airplane vent. I need a night with the girls. You've been intense. Cute word. Okay. Enjoy. Thank you. I hung up and did two things before bed. I moved our joint card to weekly auto allowance instead of open access, and I set our shared calendar to view only for her. Adult adjustments. If she wasn't sleeping here, the house didn't run on autopilot. I poured myself one finger of something brown, watched a ball game, and slept without waiting for any door. She came back at 6 the next morning, walked in quiet, set her purse down like it weighed nothing. Hey, I said, tying my boots. Hey, she answered. Don't be mad. I'm not mad. You changed the bank thing. I did. That's petty. That's structure. For what? For clarity. If you make your own nights, you can manage your own extras. She looked like she had something else in her throat and swallowed it. That night, she booked another family visit, this time her parents across town. She went. The next morning she texted, car trouble, running late, sorry. I sent a thumbs up and rescheduled the contractor who was coming to fix the patio post. Another adult adjustment. Things that used to be our "we handle this" became "I handle what I can control." I didn't announce any of it. I simply moved the load. When she finally sat across from me 3 days later, she exhaled a little too loud. We're off, she said. We are. What are you doing? Matching pace. That's not helpful. What do you suggest? She tapped her nails on the table. We need more spontaneity. You disappear overnight to generate spontaneity? She flinched. You're making everything sound ugly. I'm describing the outline. She stared, then said, I didn't do anything wrong. I leaned back. I didn't say you did. I said we're not aligned. You're punishing me. No, Emily. I'm not punishing you. I'm moving in a way that doesn't leave me guessing at midnight. You're being difficult. I warned you months ago when the couch became your best friend. She shook her head. I can't do this conversation. Then we do logistics. I slid an envelope across the table. House expenses split in half starting next month. Recurring charges itemized. My schedule posted for the next 2 weeks. If you need a night out, put it in. If you don't, even better. She stared at the list. This is ridiculous. This is straightforward. This is not romantic. Correct. She pushed up, grabbed her bag, and walked out. That night she didn't come home. She texted at midnight, staying at my parents'. Be back by 7. I put my phone face down and slept. My buddy Nate, who runs the shop where I source lumber, noticed the new weight in my voice when I loaded boards. You look like a guy who just measured twice and cut once, Nate said, resting his forearms on the counter. More like I stopped lending my tape measure. I answered. Want to grab wings later? Not tonight. You sure? I'm fine. He nodded. You're not. But you will be. I didn't need sympathy. I needed track. So I opened a whiteboard in the workshop and wrote a 2-column plan. What I control / what I don't. Under control, I put my time, my tone, my money, my space. Under don't, her explanations, her whereabouts, her mood. Seeing it calmed me like tightening bolts. That board lived behind the saw for months. After 2 overnights and 1 surprise, I'm out with Megan again. I set a boundary out loud, not as a threat, just as a fact. I picked a neutral place with witnesses. Wes and his wife invited us for a weekend cookout. We brought a salad. Emily showed up an hour late, breezy, with a new haircut I hadn't noticed because I saw it with everyone else. Wes popped a soda for me. His wife pointed to the cooler. Where were you? I asked Emily lightly as she set the bowl down. A hair appointment ran long. You booked it during something we agreed to attend together, I said. She smiled like I was cute and 12. You'll live. I turned slightly so Wes could hear me without the whole yard listening. This arrangement where we make plans and you break them on your own schedule doesn't work for me. Going forward, if that happens, I'll go without you or I'll change my plans entirely. She blinked. Are you seriously making a speech right now? Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. It's not a speech. It's a boundary. Wes lifted a brow and busied himself with ice, which made him the perfect audience. Present, pretending not to be. Don't embarrass me, Emily said. I'm not. I'm telling you what I'll do if the pattern continues. No drama, just a change. And what change is that? If you want to be single in your calendar, you can be single in your plans. I won't be holding the anchor. A minute of quiet. She scoffed. You're overreacting. Okay. Okay, what? Okay. I heard you say I'm overreacting. I'll adjust. That landed like a small grenade with no visible smoke. Wes coughed and said something about the meat finishing up. Emily went inside with his wife, leaving me with the grill. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Stop. You're making me look bad. I pocketed the phone and flipped a burger. That night she went soft. The first illusion. In bed she nestled closer than she had in weeks. I'm sorry, she murmured. I've been scattered. Work's crazy. Work is always crazy, I said, neutral. I miss us. Is that true? Yes. She lifted my hand and placed it on her side like an invitation stamped and sealed. We were careful with each other. In the morning she made pancakes and hummed. For 4 days we were almost normal. Then Saturday came with a text at 5, spontaneous girls' night. Might stay with Megan. Don't wait up. I responded with a single word, noted. Then I did something new. I took the truck to my office and worked late on purpose. No sitting at the window, no clock checking. At midnight, I turned off the lights and slept on the shop couch. If she wanted to play absence, I could also play not present. Not to hurt her. To spare me. Sunday she came in at 6 with a bag of bagels like that was a peace treaty. I was in the garage tightening a hinge. You didn't come home last night either, she said. Right. Where were you? Not home. That's not answering. You didn't ask a question. She squinted. Are you trying to prove a point? No. I'm living by the same one. She chewed her lip. You're being childish. Emily, the words you pick for me don't change the math. We have a pattern. I'm adjusting, so I'm not the only one holding down the fort. She set the bag down a little too hard. I don't like this version of you. I like that it's clear. She studied me for a second and then nodded like she decided on something private. That look, I recognized later, was calculation. At the time, I took it as surrender. The second illusion arrived 2 days later. She came to my office with lunch. Nobody at the shop had ever seen her do that. Nate whistled. Look who's being nice, he said. Emily swatted his arm. I am always nice. To me she is, Nate said, then winked at me. She laid out sandwiches, chips, carrot sticks like we were on a picnic. I've been selfish, she said, eyes on mine. I forgot how good we are when I show up. I'm sorry. I watched her for a beat. It's easy to say sorry when you're holding a sandwich. And when I'm holding you. She reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. Words are cheap. Actions cost. I'll pay. We'll see. She bit her lip. Give me a chance. Emily, I'm not in the business of closing doors before someone knocks. She smiled. I like when you talk like that. Like what? Like a man with rules. I've always had rules. Then hold me to them. Gladly. She kept it up for a while. 2 weeks of consistency. She came home early. She laughed. She stopped treating me like furniture. She didn't stay out. She reached for me without being asked. She asked me to go out for breakfast on a Saturday and watched me eat like she cared about the answers to questions only I got. I folded into it because a sane man doesn't bite the hand that just started holding his again. I kept my boundaries active, separate budgets, clear schedules, but I let myself enjoy the color back in the house. At the end of that second week, I did what any optimist with a memory that forgives too fast might do. I believed we were back. Not perfect, but aligned. I left the whiteboard up in the workshop. I just stopped reading it every night. A month slipped by from her apology, and we were, by all symptoms, stable. I marked the date because I am, at heart, a guy who likes a clean ledger. 30 days felt like a measurable milestone. I booked us a table at a new spot downtown everyone kept talking about. I didn't say a word until the day of, then showed up in the doorway of the living room with a grin. Put on something sharp, I said. We're going out. She looked up from her laptop. Where? I said the name. Her face twitched. Not big, just a fractional stutter in how she blinked. You okay? I asked. That place is fancy, she said, smoothing her hair. So are you, on the right night. She laughed. It sounded half a note too high. I just didn't expect it. If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. On the drive, she kept checking her phone, then putting it face down. Her heel bounced against the floor mat. I chalked it up to excitement. I wanted to chalk it up to that. At the table, she ordered a cocktail, then didn't drink it. She laughed, but the laugh floated above the table like a balloon not tied down. I tried to ground it with stories, how we'd met at a 4th of July barbecue, how she'd told me my burger was burned and then stole half anyway. Your face was priceless, she said. You look like someone had just told you brisket is vegan. I married you anyway. You did. Best decision I made, I said, letting that sit. She reached across. We did have some odd months. We did, I echoed. Here's to better ones. Glasses clinked. The sound was clean, like a window finally Windexed. We were halfway through remembering our first winter, the heater that groaned, the coat we shared on the couch, when a shadow crossed the table. A young guy, gym-fit and grinning like the room was his. He had the energy of a trainer who talks to everyone, never learned limits. He stepped in close, put a hand on Emily's shoulder, and squeezed. There you are, he said, loud and easy. You fell off the map. I've been missing you. You want to catch up after you're done here with your friend? Friend. He looked straight at me and said friend. His hand didn't leave her shoulder. Emily went still. Her eyes were wide open, but everything behind them was a locked door. My mind didn't go blank. It clicked. Every drift, every overnight, every half-smile with deadlines attached. The name of the restaurant wasn't a coincidence. It was a stage. He knew she liked this place. She thought he wouldn't be working tonight. Or he would, and he'd be discreet. He wasn't. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. I didn't ask for explanations. The math was solved. She can make time tonight, I told him, my tone level. Starting now, because as of this moment, she's free for good. He looked at me, then at her, confused, like someone who dropped a ball and didn't expect gravity. Emily didn't breathe. I set my napkin down, signaled the server, handed over my card without waiting for the check. I stood. Mark, Emily started. I cut in. Enjoy your evening, I said to both of them without looking at either. I'm done. I walked out. Behind me, I heard her voice lift, not a shout, more a tight hiss that still carried. That was my husband. What is wrong with you? I told you I'd figure out a time. He laughed, not cruel, just careless. He said you're free. I stepped into the night. The air felt colder than it should. I hit the lot, unlocked the truck, sat a second, then turned the key and drove home on auto. I didn't yell in the cab. I didn't hit the wheel. I made a list in my head. Pack her things, change the locks in the morning, stop autopays, call the bank, call my brother to help move boxes if needed. My hands did what hands do. They drove. At the house, I grabbed 2 suitcases from the attic and pulled open drawers with the efficiency of a guy who's moved apartments 3 times. I folded her clothes neat. I set her toiletries in a plastic bag like a courtesy kit. I laid her shoes in pairs. I didn't throw anything. 40 minutes later, her car pulled up fast. She came in with the front door urgency of a firefighter who left something on the stove. Mark, she said, breathless. Please. You knew him, I answered, not a question. It's not what it looked like. Emily, listen to yourself. It was one dinner. One. I stopped. I stopped weeks ago. I swear. Her hands fluttered over the open suitcase. You told me to be honest, and I was going to. You were going to keep both worlds, I said, zipping the first bag. You thought you could. You found out you can't. I'm sorry, she said, stepping closer. I got lost. I wanted to feel. You wanted heat, I said. I am not a space heater you turn on and off. It's not about you. Everything you do to us is about us. She grabbed my arm. Don't do this. Don't end us over one mistake. I already gave you one chance, I said, calm as a weather report. There isn't a second. Her face changed like I'd flipped a switch. You're going to throw away our marriage because you're proud? Be wise. Be reasonable. I am. You made your move. This is mine. I lifted the second suitcase and held it out. She didn't take it. Listen to me, she said louder. He means nothing. I thought I needed something else. I don't. I picked you. I came home. I made breakfast. An apology is not an alibi. You won't even try to understand. I understand enough. She went higher, desperate, turning into demand. Stop packing like a clerk and talk to me. Just stop and listen. I placed the suitcase in her hand. Those are your things. The choice was yours. The result is yours. So is the door. I carried the bags to the entry and opened it. No lecture, no ceremony. She stood in the square of light with her mouth set in a line that used to mean stubborn and now meant cornered. This is stupid, she said. Stupid would be staying. Where am I supposed to go? Where you spent your overnights would be a logical start. She flinched like I'd used a slur. You are not being the man I married. You're not being the woman I chose. Her eyes filled with something she wanted to weaponize and couldn't. She swallowed it. She stepped out. I placed the second suitcase by her calf. She lifted it with both hands. Please, she said once more, softer, the word of someone who realized the theater ended and the house lights were back on. Don't call. Don't text, I said. We're done. Then I closed the door not in her face, but behind her. I locked it with the quiet click of a guy who takes responsibility for his house. I slept hard. In the morning, I moved fast. I called a locksmith. I turned off her access to the cameras. I moved the last of her things, 2 plants, a framed photo she bought of a beach we never visited, onto the porch. I texted, your stuff's on the bench. Pick up by noon. She responded, we need to talk. I didn't answer. Nate showed up late morning with a box of screws like an offering. You doing okay? He asked. I'm doing what I need to. You want help with anything? Help me carry these to her trunk when she comes. That way, we both stay polite. You got it. She arrived before noon with sunglasses on and a face that tried to be blank. Nate nodded to her like a doorman. She looked over his shoulder and barely nodded back. We loaded the last box. She touched my wrist when we were done. Can we at least have a conversation later? We had one. At the restaurant door, you called me your friend. In my house, you told me to be reasonable. That conversation ended. That wasn't fair, what he did. Fair was not your word when you were out for nights. She pressed her lips and walked to the car. Nate looked at me like he wanted to say something and decided against it. The car pulled away slow, then sped up at the corner. After lunch, I went to the bank and made practical changes. Nothing spiteful, just clear. I updated beneficiaries, removed joint permissions, called the utility company, and split accounts. I didn't need to prove I was in charge. I needed to be a man who didn't live in limbo. I texted my brother, might be quiet around here for a while. He sent a thumbs up and a joke about finally getting me back for the time I took his mower. Normal humor felt like a small victory. The rest happened in weeks and paperwork I won't bore you with. I started the process, kept it simple, signed what needed signing. She tried to call 3 times, then sent messages like she was writing a script. I miss you. I'm sorry. It was one night. We can fix this. I muted the thread. If I answered even once, I'd be back on the merry-go-round. I was done with circles. Nights I didn't want to sit in that living room. I went to the workshop and wore the bench down with good work. I built a new coffee table for the den. I cleaned the gutters. I ate simple meals standing at the counter like a bachelor who knows he's not starving. He's choosing efficiency. My neighbor Wes stopped by with extra ribs one Sunday and left without asking questions. 2 weeks in, my boss asked if I wanted to take over the East project. It meant more hours and a bigger headache. I said yes, not to avoid the house, but because I finally had the space to fill with something that paid. I made good progress. People noticed. Somewhere in there, a buddy from high school, Dean, invited me to a poker night. I'm not a gambler by nature, but the table was a decent place to sit and listen to men talk about lawn mowers and kids who drive like they're allergic to brakes. I stayed late, won $20, lost 10, cared about none of it. What I liked was the normal. Emily called less often. One day she stopped. Another adult adjustment done by silence. 2 months later, the paperwork ended with an envelope and a recorded line. The house became mine again, not because I won it in a fight, but because I chose a clean exit over a messy drama. I took off my ring at the sink without ceremony and put it in the top drawer. That drawer closed. My life opened. I'd like to say she learned a lesson and became a different person. What I know is what I heard from a distance. Someone saw her moving boxes into a small apartment near her parents. Someone else said she changed jobs. None of that made me happy or sad. It was a weather report from a town I didn't live in. What had changed was me. I cleared the extra room and turned it into a place I actually used. I hung my grandfather's level on the wall. I replaced the couch with something solid and honest. I bought a used truck in better shape than mine, Not shiny, just reliable. My raise kicked in from the project. I paid off the last of a lingering debt. Practical wins stack up. They smell like pine and new paint. 3 months after the restaurant, Nate introduced me to a woman named Claire at a cookout. She runs a physical therapy clinic and has the kind of direct way that makes you either step up or step off. We talk like adults. You married? She asked. Was, I said. Bad. Educational. Fair. She smiled. You like dogs? I like mine in the neighbor's yard, I said. That's honest. I'm trying it out. We kept it slow. She didn't push, I didn't sell. On our third date, she asked me why I didn't seem nervous. I'm not auditioning, I told her. I know how to be alone. I choose to be here. She squeezed my hand and nodded. That's my kind of woman. Listen, I'm not telling you any of this to make a movie of it. There were no fireworks, no dramatic reunions, no speeches on wet sidewalks. I didn't win a prize for walking out. I just refused to keep paying a tax on my self-respect. The core of it is simple. When someone teaches you what your life is worth to them, believe it and act accordingly. That morning she made me bacon. I thought I'd cracked the code. A good woman, a good house, a good run. Maybe we had that for a while. Maybe that was true. But you're only as good as the respect in the room. When that leaves, so do I. I remember the exact way her hand felt on my shoulder in that restaurant when the kid clapped her and called me a friend. I also remember the feel of a suitcase handle in my palm, the weight of it, the choice it stood for. People say they can live with anything if they don't know for sure. I didn't need a detective. I needed a decision. I made it. I slept. Now, on Saturdays, I take the truck out early, grab coffee, and drive aimlessly for half an hour just because I can. Sometimes Claire rides with me. Sometimes she's on a morning shift, and I'm alone with talk radio and the empty seat. I like both. The house is quiet on purpose. The workshop is loud when I want it to be. My calendar is mine. When I think of Emily now, it's like glancing at a road you once took because a map said it was faster. You hit construction, you reroute. You don't go back to the traffic to prove a point. You find a better way. And if a young guy somewhere thinks it's smart to put his hand on another man's wife in front of him and call him a friend, well, maybe he'll meet someone like me one night and learn a clean lesson. You don't earn respect by borrowing it. You don't keep a home by visiting. And you don't lose a man like me and get a second try. I already gave one. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.